When a new gadget or technological marvel is introduced, people often describe it as something that will change the world. Maybe it will transform business, travel, or communications. But one thing's for sure. It will be around for a long time. Of course, very little gets that far. Most inventions that start out strong ultimately die out. These 10 brands and inventions were massively successful at first. But once the public's interest in their novelty died out, these items bit the dust, too. 5. TiVo. In the dark days before devices like TiVo were introduced, it wasn't easy to record live television. And just forget about pausing it to go to the bathroom or grab a snack. TiVo changed all that with its introduction of digital video recorder technology, which revolutionized how we watch television. With a TiVo attached to your TV, you could record multiple channels at once, making it almost impossible to miss a favorite show. Even more impressive, the system made it possible to skip commercials, a feature that everyone appreciated. TiVo's branding was so successful that it became a verb. People would say that they TiVo'd something to watch later. Unfortunately, it was not to last. As digital technology continued to grow, DVRs became largely unnecessary. TiVo adapted to the times, albeit slowly, and saw its market share drop considerably. Then, in 2016, Rovi picked up TiVo for a cool $1 billion and changed Rovi's company name to TiVo Corporation. As the new TiVo Corporation focused on licensing its technology rather than producing hardware, it became an attractive takeover target itself. In 2020, TiVo Corporation completed a $3 billion merger with Sperry Corporation, a firm that specialized in licensing tech and intellectual property. The new company is called Sperry Holding Corporation. The combined entity will continue to use the TiVo brand for consumer-facing digital entertainment products and services. But not the original TiVo digital video recorder that so many of us knew and loved. That's a tech dinosaur wiped out by the asteroid of progress. 4. Google Glass. Google Glass debuted with a massive amount of media attention and buzz in 2012. The company's flashy product demo included skydivers streaming their jumps through the device. The product was marketed as much for its novelty and exclusivity as for its technology, and the public ate it up. So-called glass explorers were given a chance to demo a prototype for 1 month before it was made available to the public. Tech enthusiasts clamored for their set. Google Glass had an integrated 5-megapixel still/720p video camera. However, that core feature was also a significant problem. Privacy concerns arose when the product first became popular, as the device was technically violating existing privacy laws in some areas. Another major factor in ending Google Glass was its hefty $1,500 price tag. All the fanfare and widespread public interest in the device died out rather quickly. By 2015, Google Glass was effectively dead as a consumer electronic device. 3. MySpace. At one time, almost everyone with an internet connection had a MySpace page. The social media platform was the first of its kind. From 2005 until 2009, it was the largest in the world and boasted more than 100 million users per month. In 2005, it was purchased by News Corporation for $580 million. MySpace was as ubiquitous then as Google and Facebook are now, and it was a money-making machine. In 2008, the company generated $800 million in revenue. It was valued at $12 billion at its height, making it one of the largest internet tech companies on the planet. But it wasn't to last. Despite being an influential innovator in the realm of social media, MySpace saw a marked decline in users in 2009 and beyond. Facebook came out of nowhere to supplant MySpace as the go-to social media network, and that's remained true for more than a decade. MySpace was sold in 2011 to Specific Media Group and Justin Timberlake via a joint purchase for $35 million. The sharp decline in the company's valuation couldn't have been more apparent. Technically, MySpace is still around. It does generate ad revenue but far less than at its peak. 2. Pebble. Although many people reading this are probably wearing an Apple or Samsung smartwatch, there's a chance that someone is wearing a Pebble. Back in 2012, Pebble became the most funded Kickstarter product of all time when its creators raised $10 million on the platform. At the time, smartwatches were just beginning to surface on the market. Through the Kickstarter campaign, Pebble was able to cultivate a massive following. The influx of money made it possible for the company to innovate its concept further, and backers began receiving their watches in early 2013. From there, the company launched more watches directly to the public and even initiated another Kickstarter campaign in 2015 that generated $20.3 million. Pebble was making money and looked to solidify its place in the smartwatch marketplace. By the following year, Pebble was all but gone. Financial issues necessitated the return of funds received via Kickstarter, and everything was shut down by December 2016. Fitbit purchased the company's intellectual property, and Pebble is now defunct. Pebble failed due to lack of capital and Apple's entry into the marketplace, which siphoned off Pebble's customers even as Apple expanded the market. But from the ashes of Pebble rose the phoenix of Rebel. Ex-employees, fans, and developers congregated on GitHub to replace the web services formerly provided by Pebble for their smartwatches. Although the original Pebble hardware will eventually die, this motivated coterie of rebels intends to create a Rebel OS to run on a future version of watch hardware. Rebel's competitive advantage is unclear at this point. The group's inspiration, Pebble, was initially meant to compete at a much lower price point than Apple products. Also, as developer Joshua Wise explained, the Apple Watch and Android Wear wanted you to interact with them, to make them the center of your life. The Pebble wants to not at all be part of your life, up until it does something useful for you, and then it lets you go back to your life. 1. Nintendo Virtual Boy. Nintendo has created some of the world's most innovative ways to play video games. The company brought back the video game industry following the market crash in the early 1980s, but not everything made by Nintendo is worthwhile. The Wii U, for example, was a massive failure. But it barely registers when compared to the disaster that was the Virtual Boy. In 1995, Nintendo released one of its strangest, most uncomfortable, and most terribly designed products of all time in the Virtual Boy. The device was marketed as a virtual reality style of gaming, but it wasn't virtual at all. Instead, it offered stereoscopic 3D glasses, similar to those found in movie theaters. To display 32-bit red graphics, players would lean into the head-mounted system and play with the attached controller. The system used a parallax effect to simulate the illusion of depth, but all it really did was give players a pounding headache. When it was released, the Virtual Boy was touted as an innovation in virtual reality gaming. But the system was terrible. It hit the market in an incomplete state because the company wanted to focus on the Nintendo 64. Only 22 games were made, and the system was cancelled within a year.